Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor
and his cousin
gives you sports betting tips. I am your host, Professor Sides. For the latest updates and information, you can follow me on Twitter at Professor Sides. You can follow my cousin Jared on Twitter at Cousin Jared. This college football episode covers select games from Week 8 of the 2022 season. In case you're new here, check out the webpage on the banner. That's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new. Thank you for pointing that out for me. It's for a primer explanation. If you haven't read that yet, just go check that out at some point. You can pause if need be. Otherwise, the goals for this episode are to share key information about these games, give you a few things to think on, and explain why certain plays are being made. We never recommend blindly tailing or fading any pick, but rather to hear the justifications and thought processes to make sure you're fully on board with us or against us. Before investing your hard-earned money, we will make a pick on every game, but you should take what you like and leave the rest. Remember that there are no locks in gambling, so what we provide are loves, likes, and leans. It is A, B, or C grade picks to indicate our confidence level with respect to scaling wagers. However, please understand that good and bad variance will occur, so as much as we'd like to say we'll be profitable each and every week, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Cousin Jared, I don't know if anybody noticed, but I snuck in a few wheeze where I used to have eyes in there in that intro. I probably nobody noticed that.
I didn't notice it,
and you know it's coming.
Yeah, no, it's happening.
We are halfway through the college football season. We talked a lot. We felt like we just had some unfortunate luck. I kind of kept thinking that would turn around. It probably will at some point, but it hasn't yet really for us. We had a couple more frustrating losses. I think I ended up up a unit on the week, which is not great. It's not that we're unhappy with the results as much, but I was just kind of like brainstorming. My goal in this is always to provide the best content, the best picks, period. And however we can do that. And so I was kind of thinking about it. We kind of collaborate anyway and talk about a lot of these things and agree on a lot of things. So I was thinking rather than having my picks and your picks, Cousin Jerry, we just kind of combine together and see if we could agree and come up with stronger picks, kind of that you see one thing, I see one thing, we agree, that kind of give it that A grade. So It's not really going to change much for you viewer. I explained all this to Mrs. Professor today and her response was, so what's changing? And then I explained it again and she kind of just looked at me. And so the answer is really not really much going to change. You won't hear two picks for a game, one from me and one from Cousin Jared. You'll just hear us kind of discussing and kind of saying this is where we're aligning to, but it won't really change much. Still the same concept of everything. We're going to trade back one thing though, because we're going to have C grade picks that we're just kind of say, hey, if you're in a pick 'em contest, if you really want to go somewhere, this is our lean, but we are going to back those from 1 unit to 0 units. So our B grade picks will stay 2 units, our A grade picks 3 units, still 50% more, but our C grade picks will actually be 0 units. We'll keep track of them just to see how they're going. But again, we are going to say those are picks that we would not invest in. We can't really come to a consensus. We don't really like anything, but if you had to pick, this is kind of where we would go. So again, not really much of a change of anything, just a little bit of a primer there. Because Jared, anything to add to that?
Can't wait to see how off the rails this goes.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, my only fear is this becomes like a 3-hour show now. It's like we just go back and forth in a game. Well, I think it'll actually make some of it go quicker because there'll be some games where we're just like, nope. Moving on. So I think it'll be good. I think we'll get to focus in more where you have expertise, good content there, and maybe go a little quicker through games that we're just like, no, this team is terrible to bet on, which we've got a few of those by now that we're just fed up with, I think. So, it should be interesting. Hopefully, again, it's good content. We want to provide entertainment, want to be interesting, fun to watch, but also, again, the best picks. I think this kind of provides a stronger pick for you viewers. That's the goal here. But before we get to that and again, see how that goes, some reminders, please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free. And if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content this channel provides. I am shamelessly wearing my Guardians jersey here. It is Sunday night, trying to get them going a little rally here in the 7th inning. So, we got to do everything we can to keep our baseball picks rolling. We got to get one more run. To get to that red line pick we have. And a reminder, we've also got that Patreon page for those of you looking to support the show and get extra benefits. Membership starts at just $3 per month. It'll get you the play of the day, the plays of the day, plays of the time slot, all that fun stuff. And any play that we aren't able to make on show because the numbers change, we'll post those on Patreon. As long as you get in the door, you got all that. And just as a reminder, If you want to do, there's different levels for different benefits, but $15 a month gets you early access to those projected spreads. I had those up pretty early today. By the time most openers were coming out, people were getting numbers that are long since gone. So could be a great benefit for you to jump on numbers or know what number to wait on and say, I like this side, but sideline a lot of times, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4 times tells you where the number's going. So it can kind of just tell you hold off and then a better number is coming. So good information there if you're looking for that. Otherwise, we'll get right to the games. All lines courtesy of Bet Online. Sign up link in the show description and accurate as the time of this recording on Sunday night. All Saturday games in this episode. We're going to kick it off with Houston at Navy. Houston is a 2.5-point favorite. Total is 53. Because I'm just going to kind of frame this for you and let you convince me on this one. Sideline has Houston ranked 67th, Navy 93rd. Sideline says it should be Houston minus 5.1. So I think we're probably on Houston here, laying a number short of a field goal. Of course, the question is just how confident are we? How do we feel about that? What do you got for us?
Well, the reason that I like Houston in this spot is because they just had an off week, so they had an extra week to prepare for the triple option. When Navy, I feel like they had that one really good game against East Carolina, by their standards, really good game against East Carolina that they won. And then they played, a close game against Air Force. Those two teams always play each other close. And then they had the blowout to Tulsa, which just, that game made absolutely no sense. But then you come back and they played SMU last week. They lost by 6 points in that game. I feel like Houston is a more comparable team to SMU than
in a game that wasn't as close as that 6.
Yes, that is exactly right. Because actually, as I was going through my prep for this, I was surprised to see that the final score of that game was only 6 because it was not nearly that.
I think
close.
It was 20 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was a lot more than that because I turned it off and stopped watching
Because
it was just such a big discrepancy there. So I feel like Houston with the extra week to prepare, again, I think they're more similar to SMU than they are to like a team like Tulsa. And I also think that Houston, they had so much bad happen this season. That comeback win at Memphis could do a lot for their season, kind of turning that around and get some confidence going. So especially less than a field goal, I like laying the 2.5 points here.
I was thinking the same thing. I think this is an A-grade pick for us here at Houston minus 2.5. I think Houston minus 3.5 would be a B-grade pick. The only question would be for the viewer, where would we go A-grade at minus 3? I think is the only open question for people in case that's all they've got.
I probably wouldn't myself just because Houston has been so disappointing this season, but definitely below 3. I think it's an A-grade.
Okay. All right, so that'd be an A-grade pick for us on Houston minus 2.5. The total's 53. I feel like last year you would have been running to the window to bet under 53 in this game. I think you would have been running to the window to bet under 51, 48.5, maybe 45. Maybe last year would have been under 45. How do you feel about this total here at 53?
Man, Navy's offense has seemingly gotten going the past couple of weeks, and Houston's
far cry from that Delaware game in the first week.
Far cry from the Delaware game, and even the game against East Carolina where it was 23-20 in double overtime. Putting up 53 against Tulsa and then 34 against SMU, even if some of that was garbage.
But they still score those points, and maybe the earlier part of the season wouldn't have scored them in garbage time, extra time, overtime. Doesn't matter what kind of time, right?
Yeah. So I think I'd probably still lean under, just because Houston's offense hasn't been just a beacon of efficiency and high output this season either. And as two people who had the over in the UNLV Air Force game, we all know that these triple option teams can chew up some clock if they're consistently getting 3 and 4 yards a pop. So I think I'd still lean towards the under, but definitely no great feel on that.
Okay. At noon Eastern, Kansas at Baylor. Baylor's a 9-point favorite. I feel like we're going to talk a decent amount about this one just because me being the resident Big 12 expert, Baylor alum as well, we do have the potential for Baylor's quarterback Shapen to be out and to go to the backup Drones. I'm not worried about that at all. The reason why is because Shapen's a better thrower than Drones is, but Drones is a better runner. they'd have all week to prepare for this and prep a different game plan that utilizes where his arm is. He's got a good arm. He's just not as good of a passer shape it is. Utilize him in a more efficient way. So I don't think there's a huge drop off. I think it's maybe a point. It's rounding error realistically, just based off of, you never really know how. There's always rounding error on these things anyway with regards to matchup style. So I don't take too much into that. I'm not really worried about the Baylor quarterback situation. We know we think Daniels is out. He might be out for the year. He might not be, but I don't think he's coming back right now. Bean didn't look as good with Kansas against Oklahoma, but he was able to put some points on the board, and they got a backdoor push if you got that plus 10 on Kansas. So Kansas still solid. The big concern for Kansas is that defense, and it really, we talked about this at the start of the year. There's one game for every team that you're going to look back on and say, what in the world happened? I think that's that Kansas-Iowa State game. How in the world was that 14-11? Given what Kansas can score and can give up points, Oklahoma's offense looks a little bit better with Gabriel, of course, but a lot of that I think was on the Kansas defense. Dylan Gabriel's not worth 60 points from the difference between what they got against Texas and what they got against Kansas, right? So Kansas obviously still much improved, a little bit taking a step back without Daniel. Sideline says this one should be Baylor minus 13.6. Baylor did have a greater than 50% post-game win expectancy against West Virginia. It just had bad turnover luck. Another game where a missed extra point cost them. They have 3 losses this season. 2 of them would have been avoided with making extra points. It's bonkers how that went. Maybe that happens again, but I don't feel like lightning will strike a third time. I was going
to say you're handling that a lot better than I would have.
They always say, it's, lightning didn't strike twice or whatever, and you're concerned about that. But I think once it strikes the second time, you start getting worried maybe it will strike a third time. Baylor's a much better team at home, though. I don't think that we get into that extra point type situation. I think it's a lot like the OU game, to be honest. I think Baylor and Oklahoma at this point are pretty similar. They both have some flaws, but they both just have more talent than Kansas, and that's what we saw with Oklahoma this last weekend. I think it's what we're going to see with Baylor this weekend. I'm comfortable laying the 9. For me, my personal threshold for an A grade would be a 7. Otherwise, I still think Baylor's the side to be on as long as it's single digits. But I don't think I could give it an A grade, even though Sideline does say it should be Baylor minus 13.5. Because what is your take on this game?
I agree with that. Let's give a B grade on the 9 points there for Baylor. I'm looking at this total, and I feel like I would take the under here just because, and I know I said this last week against West Virginia, and we see how well that worked out for me, but I feel like this is the best defense that Kansas has played all season, or at least, I think they're still a little bit better than Iowa State is this season, but, in that sphere, and like you just mentioned, that 14-11 game with Iowa State, I kind of keep coming back to that. It makes me wonder, especially with the backup quarterback now for Kansas, how many points are they going to put up on Baylor? So 62.5 seems like a lot of points for maybe the toughest defense that Kansas has played all season, and Baylor starting their backup quarterback. Again, you say it's not a concern, but I'm just saying maybe some rust, maybe something doesn't click right away, and a number like 62.5,
different style of offense to be going a little slower.
Yeah, and so 62.5 doesn't take many stalled drives to go under that number.
I'm going to say I wouldn't touch this total with a 10-foot pole. My buy point for the over would be like 55, and my buy point for the under would be like 80. I don't think there's any way you can get me to touch this one. And the reason I say that is we've just seen Kansas play in too many crazy games with the Iowa State game and then the Oklahoma game, and a lot of the games Kansas has played in. You talked about the Baylor. Both teams might be having a backup quarterback. We just don't know what that's going to do. Like Kansas is still kind of slinging it around. Maybe that's the same type of thing. Maybe Kansas defense can't stop Baylor. And I could see an exact repeat of the OU game, but I could also see Baylor's defense being too much for Kansas because they're again the best defense they face. So I don't think I would touch this total personally, just because I have no idea what to expect in that one. But yeah, so B grade pick on Baylor minus 9 there for us. Noon Eastern, Cincinnati at SMU. Cincinnati is it should be SMU is a 3-point home favorite here. Sideline says this should be Cincinnati's SMU minus.
Cincinnati's the 3-point favorite in this game, I believe.
Cincinnati's a 3-point favorite. Yeah, Cincinnati's a 3-point favorite. Sideline says it should be 4.3. Two teams that have had question marks this season. Cincinnati obviously taking a step back. We kind of thought they would, still kind of having some of those slow starts, which has hurt them as big favorites. Not an issue here since they're not a big favorite, since they don't have those play catch up for a big number. SMU didn't. They did to Navy what they needed to do for the first 2 to 3 quarters, so that was impressive, and they let off the gas. So I'm not really sure what to make of that one. Sideline says this one should be 4.3. Total is 50. What do you have? Or total is 63.5. What do you have for us here?
I like Cincinnati in this spot. I like laying the points with them because if you look at SMU and what they've done against Maryland and UCF this season. So Maryland, UCF, and Cincinnati are all within 2 points of each other in your ratings. And against those teams, SMU would not have covered this number. They did not cover either of those games either. And obviously the UCF game, you kind of saw how that one played out. SMU just got crushed in the second half of that game. So I think that Cincinnati is a very similar team to those two, and maybe even has a better defense than both of those teams. So I feel comfortable laying the 3 points with Cincinnati on the road. And in regards to the total, the SMU UCF game did not get to this number, and the SMU Maryland game was really close to this number. And again, I think Cincinnati has a better defense than both of those teams. Mm-hmm. And so looking at 63.5, I think I would also lean to the under here.
I think I'm with you on the under. It just seems like a lot of points. I think Cincinnati's defense is solid. I would go under as well. I'm not feeling too strongly about it, so I would give that a B grade on the under. Okay. Would be my take on that. And I'm with you on Cincinnati. I think we can give that an A grade on this, specifically because the number at -3. I think it's an A grade at -3. I think B grade at -3.5. I think that's the determining factor a lot of times between an A and a B grade is a little bit of how strongly you feel about it, but also a little bit just the number. At 3, I think it's a solid play here. Could be a weird overtime type situation where 2 gets into the play, you know, but that's not very likely. If that happens, I think we just shrug and say, well, it was fun.
Yeah. You know? And so for me, just so everybody knows, the difference between an A grade at 3 in this game and then, only a B grade at 3 in the Houston Navy game, just because I've watched enough Navy games to see them go for so many 4th downs, go for 2-point conversions, do all sorts of weird things, running the triple option like that. And especially with a team like Houston that's had all sorts of crazy games this season. That's just one of those things where it's like A grade below 3. At 3 it's just B, because that game you could tell me anything could happen and I would. You just need a little bit. You just need to turn that push into a win to make you feel a little better. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, and I don't know if this is good or bad, I feel like at least between the Houston Navy game and the Cincinnati SMU game, we at least have a unified theme, which is SMU beat up on Navy, which shows you that Navy isn't very good. Mm-hmm. And because Navy isn't very good, SMU letting Navy back into it means Cincinnati should handle them too. So it's kind of like I feel like we're building the hierarchy here in the conference, right? We're setting it up at least nicely. Hopefully it plays out just like we're thinking. So A grade pick for us on Cincinnati -3, B at 3.5, and then we'll go under 63.5 with the B grade pick. I don't think it's our favorite total of the week, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, Toledo at Buffalo. 2 teams I've been liking a lot lately.
I was just about to say, you are torn on this game.
I am torn on this one. I like both of these teams. And interesting enough, Sideline says this should be Toledo -7.2. I feel like Toledo's definitely the better team. Really slow start on Saturday and then just getting it rolling for us and then never a doubt at the end, which was shocking. Buffalo just, I think I mentioned last week, finally doing what the model thought they were going to do last year and they just couldn't get it together, and finally getting it together now and being a decent MAC team. Obviously not great, but I mean, they're up to 92nd in the ranking system, which is a far cry from where we saw them at the beginning of the season where they looked pitiful. They were looking really strong lately. Total is 61.5 on this one. Where's your head at for us?
I don't have a feel for this game one way or the other. And so I feel like I would probably lean towards taking the 7.5 points just because it's more than a touchdown, and the total, my goodness, I don't even want to say because I have no idea. You mentioned you would not touch the Baylor total. This is another total that I would just not even go near.
All right. I think that kind of makes 2 of us on this total. So it's a pass for us on the total. I kind of think Buffalo plus 7.5 makes a lot of sense. I like getting the hook. I like the home team here. I think that Toledo can obviously demolish bad teams, but I think the teams that Toledo has been demolishing have been teams more in the hundreds, whereas Buffalo's up around 90. I think the Buffalo's been just good enough to not get destroyed, can hang in there. Yep. I like getting to 7.5 here. To me, I think Buffalo's a B grade pick, not an A grade pick. To get an A, I don't even know what I need for an A grade on this. 14.5. I mean, I feel like knowing what Toledo can do, it'd have to be. It's one where the number is really high, but I do think Buffalo's the right side, and I feel confident playing them at this number at 6.5 would be. To me, 6.5 is just a straight pass. I wouldn't want to mess with it, but I think the home team here getting more than a touchdown in a MAC game makes a lot of sense, right?
I agree.
Can you sign off on a B grade pick? Can you give that at your
Yes, approval? I can sign off on a B grade pick.
All right, so Buffalo plus 7.5 B grade pick, passing on the total. 3 p.m. Eastern, West Virginia and Texas Tech. West Virginia, they get it done now, up to 3-3 here after that win at home against Baylor. Kind of salvaging their season potentially, giving them hope for a bowl game. I mean, we talk about the Big 12 being so good, playing round robin, no weak teams. Someone's going to miss a bowl, and West Virginia was kind of, I feel like, teetering on losing that game and really being a hard chance of making a bowl.
Yeah. So I good for Jake. He has the West Virginia season total over 5.5. Maybe this just makes it more painful when he doesn't get to the 6. But
it's still a tough road ahead. But yeah, it's like you got a chance now to get to 6. Yeah. Tech also sitting at 3-3. Sideline has these two teams, one team apart. West Virginia ranked 41st, Tech 43rd. I've got Tech as a 2-point home favorite, a little bit of an extra boost for home field for Lubbock. I think 4.5 is too many. I want to grab the 4.5 with West Virginia in a game. I don't know what's going to happen, so give me 4.5. Kind of reminds me of the Oklahoma State TCU game in that regard. Lesser talent, but that same concept. The only question is just how much are we putting on this? Is this A grade or B grade? I guess is my question for you.
It's definitely a B grade. It's not an A grade. I am concerned about West Virginia away from Morgantown there, and especially you mentioned Tech being a really difficult place to play. And I think Tech had a off week coming to this, so had a little bit of time to get ready.
West Virginia had 2 extra days too, whatever that's worth.
Yeah, man, I like West Virginia's offense, and Tech is just crazy this season. It seems like so many of their games are, high scoring or big comebacks like against Texas. And so I think this is going to be a close game. If this were less than 4, I think I would lean towards Tech. But yeah, being over 4 points, I definitely lean towards West Virginia and give my seal of approval for the B grade.
Okay. Total is 69. It's a lot of points. I think it's an overplay for me. I think at 69, I think this is the number we want. I don't know about 70, but I mean, Tech plays way more recklessly than Baylor does.
Yeah. And reckless is a good description.
Yeah. I mean, they just 4th and whatever, wherever, we don't care. I love it. It's fun to watch. If you haven't watched Texas Tech this year, watch them at some point, right? I don't know about this one because it should be a good game, but I mean, there's a lot going on. But I mean, try to find some time to watch them. They play fun, but they play fun. They play fast. They play reckless. They play crazy. And West Virginia had no problem playing in a more surprising up-tempo game this last week. I feel like I said, I think the old school Big 12 is back. I think 69, I think that's the limit for me. I think that's my buy point for the over.
What I would say is if you wanted to play the over in this game and you were like, oh, wait till it goes down to like 68 or 67. I'm not saying it will go down there, but if it did, those numbers carry relatively very small significance. 69 is one of the higher numbers, and especially in the top half of the 60s for totals to land on. So what I would say is if you want to take the over, there's no really reason to wait for it. If you like over 69, there's no point waiting on 68 or something like that. Go ahead and play it at 69.
I think the most interesting thing about this new dynamic is how I've taken some of these big number overs, and I think it's mostly worked for me. How uncomfortable can I make you to get you to sign on to some of these high number overs like this?
I mean, it's super uncomfortable, but like if there's going to be a spot where you're going to be able to convince me to do it, it is a Texas Tech game at home in Lubbock. It's just, memories of, I don't know, 2006 to, 2014 or whenever Mahomes left, 15, 16, 17, whatever it was. I have too many images in my brain of these games seemingly easily going into the 70s and 80s. So I can sign off on that.
All right, so we got West Virginia plus 4.5 as a B grade pick, and I'm kind of like you. I think that's kind of the limit at 4. I don't know, 4 feels very iffy, but yeah, if it gets out of 3, I would definitely be on type. But a 4.5, just too much uncertainty, too much. Last team has the ball. This is another one I think money line might make a little bit of sense. Just who knows what's going to happen. Take the plus odds as well. Kind of like the Oklahoma State TCU game, which was looking very good for the Oklahoma State money line until TCU had a furious comeback, and then we were glad we had the point. So I think it's the same sort of thing here. Probably don't have that same sort of weird ending, but you never really know. So official pick for us will be plus 4.5 at B grade, but maybe some money line and over 69. That's the buy point though. Maybe 70, but into the 70s, I'm not willing to go over, but there I am with a B grade play. 3:30 Eastern, Marshall at James Madison. I told y'all we were getting a little carried away with James Madison. I told y'all, like, there's a reason I built the model. The whole reason I built the model was to give us that idea where we could say, okay, guys, let's tap the brakes a little bit. We reached that point with James Madison this last week. They're 12-point favorites here. Total is 54. Cousin Jared, what are your thoughts for us on this one?
Okay, so it seems like a lot of points for the type of game that Marshall usually plays, which is very low scoring. So I know last week I said that I would have gone opposite of you. I probably would have laid the points with James Madison. In my gut, I want to do the same thing here. I want to lay the points just because I don't know how many points Marshall is going to score in this game. But also look at the total at 54, and I would definitely lean towards the under here. I mean, we've talked before, like 54 is a terrible number. Like you want to see if it gets to 55, wait till it gets to 52.5 or something like that if you like the under. 54, nothing great there. But I just think that this Marshall defense is going to present problems that James Madison's offense hasn't seen all season. And so I think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game. Like I mentioned, I would lean towards the under. And with that in mind, I guess I would take the 12 points just because I feel like you mentioned sideline kind of seems to got a little bit of a handle on James Madison after last week. I should have listened to it last week. I didn't. So maybe I can learn my lesson here and just take the 12 points and be good with it.
And I think, if someone wants to go back through the hours of show we've recorded, maybe someone can prove me wrong on this, but I feel like last week was the first time where I was like, okay, I think we've got it with James Madison. Because early on, it was kind of like we didn't really know. I feel like we got a decent start with them, but then they were so far off, and it was how we're adjusting. And last week, I was like, I think we've got it. I think we're there now. I want to take the 12 with Marshall. I think B grade pick, though, can't be that confident. James Madison's a really good team. Mm-hmm. Can't be that confident. That's a lot of points for this many. For a total of 54. So B grade pick for us on Marshall plus 12. The question on the total on the under is, I'm with you. I like the under. What number would we buy in at? Are we buying in even if it gets to 52.5, or do we need 55 to just to get to a B grade pick?
Man, for a B grade pick, I still think I would like a B grade pick at 52.5. Because the ways that I see this game playing out, it's either Marshall keeps it close and James Madison doesn't score that many points, or if Marshall gets blown out, it's because they score like 10. And so I think I would still like it at 52.5. Give it a B grade there.
And what do you think for an A? Is it 55, or do we actually
55?
55. Okay. Yeah. So then we'll say this. We'll leave it for now. We'll just kind of see where the number goes. But join us on Patreon again, $3 a month. If it starts going down before our next episode, we will make a post there and say, hey, it's going down. If we see it in time, if it goes down like 3 points in 10 minutes and we don't see it, it's gone, right? But if we see it going down, we will post on there. We're locking it in because it's going the wrong direction, because we want to get an under in at 52.5 or better. But we're holding off for now because 55 would be a lot better in a game we think will be low scoring. That sound right to you?
Sounds right to me.
All righty. 3:30 Eastern, UCLA at Oregon. Part 1 of my Pac-12 meltdown is complete. Didn't play out exactly like I expected. I gave up on Utah for sure. I think we all did. Then they won, and then they went for 2. They tied up we're going to tie up for 2, which was a great decision, but not for those of us who had -3 because you're doing money line. So you were thrilled. Right decision, smart decision. It's weird when a coach makes a smart decision like that. Usually they don't. I don't know how many times.
Dumb decisions. Yeah.
How many times in the Discord were we screaming, "Go for 2, go for 2"? They just won't do it. And they finally did there. But I mean, like I said, I feel like you could see it coming with the Pac-12 until something happens differently. when you'll see the rankings this week, you're going to laugh. All the Pac-12 teams are literally next to each other. They're all good. They're all going to beat each other up. I already called it last week. Same thing I think is going to happen. Same thing is likely to happen here. Oregon's likely to win this game, right? They're favored by 6 for a reason. So according to the experts in the desert and around the world, Oregon should win this game, complete the or continue the Pac-12 kind of meltdown. Put Oregon maybe in the leader spot, for the Pac-12. Total of 71. I don't think I want to play the over, but I mean I would go over if I had to, right? I mean, I wouldn't take this under, knowing the way these two teams play, right?
Probably not, but I'm like you. I'm not touching the total.
I'm not touching it either, but I mean, if I had to, I would. One way or the other, I'm taking over 71 rather than under 71. Mm-hmm. The play that we like on this is grabbing the points with UCLA. I think Oregon's more likely to win, but how much are they going to win by? They could easily win by 3, 4, or 6. That's 2 wins and a push. They could also easily win by 7. Like I said, there's no locks in gambling. Cousin Jared Sideline says Oregon -2. So we're getting a lot of value here. I think these two teams are about even. I think a lot of these teams at the top of the Pac-12 are pretty even. I think it'll be a lot of great football. But I think this UCLA team is pretty good, and we've seen them moving in the right direction. I don't quite understand why we're getting 6, but I want to take the 6. The only question is A grade or B grade for us.
I would give it an A grade because as I was, looking over this game, in my mind, I know they seem like completely equal teams. So I know you give roughly 2.5 points ish or so for home field advantage. So, even if you wanted to give an extra full point for playing in Eugene in a big game and the atmosphere that provides, I couldn't see this game being more than 3.5. And so I was shocked to see that I was getting the full 6 points. I just feel like I really like what I've seen from UCLA this season. In the biggest games they've played, they've come out and looked the best. And so I think getting 6 points here is really a deal. So this gets an A grade from me.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm with you. Let's lock that in as an A grade +6 on UCLA. Like the 900th Chip Kelly revenge game, it feels like. It seems like we get them every which way possible. But I think it should be a great game, tight game down to the wire. Let's hope it plays out like the USC-Utah game, where it's fun, a lot of points, and someone goes for 2 at the end, and then we just get to smile and clap, right?
Exactly.
Also at 3:30 Eastern, Texas at Oklahoma State. I think if you ask fans of these two schools, I think to a man, they will almost assuredly all say that their team is going to lose this game. I think this is like these two schools just don't think they can beat the other one. There was this era where Texas only beat Oklahoma State in the craziest way. So Oklahoma State fans still have this dread of them, but of recent years, Oklahoma State's had more success, and Texas fans are on the road against a good Oklahoma State team. It's just, I think if you talk to fans of these two teams, I think you'll get some fun responses. Texas looking really good. But I don't know. Look, I'm not going to bury the lead. A 3.5 point favorite on the road in Stillwater. Did I not nail the Iowa State Texas game? I mean, to a word, basically. Iowa State's going to hang it. They might win. Had that receiver caught that ball, and that was a tough catch, but I mean, he had it. And the fumble at the end, I looked to me like his knee was down, and apparently they didn't even review if his knee was down. They reviewed targeting. But it looked like his knee was down. Iowa State had a chance to win that game and played out, like I said, just like I said it would. The issues for this week with Texas are not noon start, lazy, whatever after that game. The issues with this are, I think we're now into the point of the season where we're going to see massively high-scoring games with a good Texas offense and a bad Texas defense. We talked about the Iowa State-Kansas game. Iowa State can make you play an uncomfortable style of football. Right. They did it last week to Texas, but that's just kind of Iowa State. They did it to Kansas too, right? I think we're going to see a questionable Texas defense, a kind of a porous Texas defense. I don't make anything of the shutout against Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma State's going to score and score and score. I think Texas is going to score a lot too. I mean, to me, this is, and maybe you can back off of one of these if you want, but to me, it's double A grade. I love the over, and I love getting the 3.5 with Oklahoma State. What's your take for us?
Let's just give double A grades for everybody here, because I'm on board. That's what it feels like, because I am on board with you here. I feel like I've seen all that I need to see from Texas's offense with Ewers starting in general. I feel like I've seen everything that I need to see from both of them and Oklahoma State's offense to feel comfortable going over the 64.5. Really nice to get that before it gets to 65. And Oklahoma State at home, you mentioned both of these teams not feeling like they're going to win. I mean, I feel like we've watched a lot of good Texas teams playing games a lot closer with Oklahoma State than they should have been, and even losing some of those games. So I can't believe that I'm getting 3.5, and it plus odds right now. Plus 101 is officially what the odds are as of the time of this recording. So even better. If you would have told me this was like 2.5 or 3, fine, but 3.5, I feel like, hey, that's great. Give me the points. And just like last week with Oklahoma State, where we took 3.5, let's get this to like triple overtime, and we feel great.
Right. Exactly. Sideline says Texas should be a 1.7 point road favorite. So I'm with you. 2.5. Absolutely. Maybe 3, but 3.5 plus odds is crazy. Yeah. I think just like last week, sprinkle a little bit on the money line, just the plus odds. And hopefully you don't have the weird ending like happened in TCU. But Oklahoma State scoring plenty of points against TCU, including a bunch of field goals. I'm like you. I think there's a ton of points. I think this is an A-grade total over for me, even up to 69. Once you get to the 70s, I probably would still play it, because I just think this is going to be a shootout. But I mean, as long as this is in the 60s here, I think it's, and like you said, it's even better that it's under 65, because that's of course a key number as well. So just a lot of gravy on this one. I love this game. I think there's a lot of ways to exploit it and make money off of it.
Yep.
3:30 Eastern, Ole Miss at LSU. Ole Miss is a 1.5 point favorite. Nailed LSU with the A-grade money line winner at Florida. But I'm going to zigzag the opposite direction here. I'm on the Rebels here at -1.5. I think LSU is the team. Like, I kind of think I've got a decent handle on the SEC, which feels weird. All right. But I kind of feel like I can kind of peg most of these teams. LSU is the team that is just good enough to be frisky and beat the other teams that are kind of good, but they're going to fall short against the really top teams. You saw it against Tennessee, and I think you're going to see it against this. It's an afternoon start rather than a noon start, but I don't think that gets them to the window. Ole Miss is just a really, really good football team. And I think the step up in class is a different effect than what happened with LSU Florida, where we talked about Florida is just not that impressive. There's a reason I got Florida down like in the 40s or 50s. LSU's better than that. But I've got LSU ranked 23rd, Ole Miss ranked 8th, and there's a case for Ole Miss to be even higher than that. I mean, they're knocking on the door of higher than that. Sideline says it should be Ole Miss -2.6, but I just think they go in and take care of business and get the win. I don't mind laying the 1.5, especially if we get into a weird overtime situation, but I'm not sure it gets there. I think just Ole Miss takes care of business here. I think Ole Miss has been kind of, every once in a while, kind of playing possum with us a little bit here in some of these games. They're not really, Lane Kiffin's doing some weird things in these games. What he's showing, what he's not showing, and I think a road game against a decent LSU team, I think he's coming out, and this is where I think he goes hard, full force, win. So I like Ole Miss -1.5. Question is, what grade can we give it? And in total of 64, if you have any thoughts for us there.
I think I would give this a B grade on Ole Miss. I think your analysis there was spot on. I do agree that LSU, I think they're going to beat the lower tier teams in the SEC, and I think they're going to lose to the upper tier teams of the SEC. I feel like they're kind of right there firmly entrenched in the middle. And really, if it would even be more so that way if they didn't have that one crazy half against Mississippi State, which, that one just kind of seems like a little bit of an outlier for them, and just how they just completely dismantled Mississippi State, because the rest of the season, nothing has looked easy for LSU. Yes, they've won some games, but nothing has ever looked easy. It's always looked challenging. Whereas Ole Miss, I've watched a lot of Ole Miss this season, and Ole Miss just has a way of making it all look very. When they turn the switch on, man, it is on. Yes, and they look pretty good. They were even able to win that ugly game against Kentucky when Kentucky came in and kind of made LSU play that type of, made Ole Miss play that type of game. Ole Miss was still able to come out with the win. So even if LSU is able to turn this into, not the type of game that Ole Miss wants to play, I still have faith that Ole Miss can win it. And I just have so much more faith in the Ole Miss offense than I do in the LSU offense. And so I definitely think laying the 1.5 points gets a B grade from me. The total, no, they ain't going to get me to do it after what I saw from LSU in Florida. I did not see that coming. I don't know how far away. Never would have seen that coming. No. So that's a no play on the total for me on this one.
Yeah, I completely agree. Another total I would not touch with the 10-foot pole. I don't know what's going on with the style of play there, but I mean, LSU Florida, that game was just like open it up, backyard football. I mean, it was like the play calling and this tempo and everything. They were just, let's go play football. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, and maybe even more so than that. How many points did Auburn give up how many points did Ole Miss give up to Auburn? Like 35 or something like that? I would not have thought that at all. I would have laid crazy odds to say Auburn's going to score less than 35 points in this game. So I was also, didn't necessarily like what I saw from the Ole Miss defense last week.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And it's like, are these teams going to go back to what we think they can do, which the Ole Miss defense, again, a step back from, when they were really elite recently, but still a solid defense, and the LSU defense, which had been decent, and both teams kind of playing slower at times. Are they going to go back to that? Or are they going to play like they've been, where it's just like balls to the wall? Who cares? Let's score a bunch of points. I have no idea what kind of game this is going to be, but I think you make an interesting point. Can LSU play the same type of game against Ole Miss that Kentucky did? But I don't think they're built to do that, is the thing. I think they're like a poor man's version of Kentucky. And so I think that makes it harder for them to pull that off, which makes it harder for them to pull the upset. Because even if you want to say Kentucky should have won that game, I just don't think LSU is going to have as much success at Kentucky eke them as Kentucky did, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll go B grade pick on Ole Miss -1.5. I feel like A grade would have to be something like +3, +3.5, +3 probably, but
yeah,
they're just never going to get there.
Yeah, playing at LSU, it would definitely have to be like a field goal the opposite direction for me to feel completely confident about that.
Yeah, I agree, which is probably never going to happen. So B grade play from us, -1.5, -2, same thing. Total 64, we are not touching whatsoever. Nope. Also at 3:30 Eastern, Northwestern at Maryland. Total is 52.5 in this one. I just do not see how Northwestern hangs in this game. Like, I feel like this is going to get ugly. I don't know. Maybe you can convince me otherwise. I want to lay the 14 with Maryland here. Sideline says it should be 23. And, I mean, I can't really disagree with that. Like, Northwestern's not very good. Maryland's decent. Sideline's got Maryland ranked 27th and Northwestern 101st. I don't know. I just think this is a blowout. I don't see, Northwestern wants to slow this game down, wants to play a defensive game. I don't think they can do that against Maryland. The question here, Sideline says 23. The question here is the status of Talia, if he is going to be able to play. So I think that's kind of the holdup on this one. If he's in, what type of number are you willing to lay on this one?
To me, it doesn't matter. I would lay the 14 either way, because what we saw from the backup for Maryland last week. Okay, so full disclosure, I had the under in the Maryland Indiana game, and he got hurt, and I was like, hey, this is going to help my under. Nope, did not. Backup came in, led him on 2 touchdown drives. And so I think the backup, I'm not saying he's as good, but, he seems completely competent. And obviously we know Northwestern is not a good team this year. We've also talked about it earlier in the season that Northwestern is playing at one of the fastest paces of any team, running the most plays in college football. So I think that
for some reason.
Yes, for reasons that are inexplicable. So I think there's going to be a lot of plays in this game, and I think that's just going to magnify the discrepancy between these two teams. And so even if it is the backup quarterback for Maryland playing, there might be so many plays ran in this game that it's not going to matter. You're still going to be able to get clear of the 13 number. So I feel good laying 14 regardless of who's starting. And if I'm going to go with Tua's brother, still starts even better, then we've got excellent value. If not, I still like laying this number.
Yeah, you jumped right ahead. I was going to walk you through that and then walk you through them, but you kind of beat me to the punch there. I don't know if he plays. We're too early in the week. I think the reason I want to talk about this today is kind of like what you were saying, is the backup looked pretty impressive. I was going to say, I don't know how much I would adjust it at this point. A couple points maybe, but aside from saying 23, it'd have to be a lot of points of an adjustment. And the backup looked good enough that I can't do that right now. In that adjustment. And Maryland, like I said, I feel like the game plan for Northwestern should be slow Maryland down, grind it out, keep their offense off the field. But that's just not, like you said, that's not what Northwestern's doing. It's going to play right into Maryland's hands, because Indiana at least had the type of offense that could score off of a weaker Maryland defense, and Northwestern doesn't. That's the kind of the difference, that Indiana was able to at least kind of do some things there this last week offensively that I don't think Northwestern can do. So I'm like you, let's lay the 14. I'm gonna say, to me, it's an A grade, and let's just lock it in at 14.
I can be convinced for an A grade against Northwestern at just about any number.
That's probably true. Total of 52.5. Can we go over that with the type of pace of play that Northwestern's doing? Maryland's defense, not good. Still, I mean, if Northwestern's going to score, it's going to be here. We think Maryland's going to put up points. Is that an overplay? Not a great number, obviously.
Not 52.5. I think this would have to be 51.5 or 51 for me to give it an A grade on the over, but definitely would still lean towards an over at this number.
Okay, so I'm gonna put a note by that one as well. Another one we're gonna follow up with and kind of keep around liking the over, but just let's see where the number goes because the number right now is not fantastic. Maybe by the time you watch this, and maybe you can shop around, you can get those numbers talked about, but at least for right now, we don't have that option. Also at 3:30 Eastern, Western Michigan at Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio is a 6-point home favorite. Sideline says it should be 7.1. Both these teams rank in the hundreds. Miami of Ohio, not good, and losing to Bowling Green last week. Western Michigan, not good. It's going to be bad football. Total of 45.5 also indicates it's going to be not exciting football. We didn't sweat that Miami under last week.
Nope.
At all. Nope. 45 is a key number. I mean, we talked earlier. We said this is not our favorite underplay of the week, right? This one is up there, right? One of our favorite underplays.
Yes, this is one of our favorite underplays of the week. This is definitely an A grade from me. When you look at Miami, Ohio's schedule, I mean, Northwestern game had 31 points. The game against Buffalo had 44 points. The game against Bowling Green last week had 30 points. Even Kent State, who plays at one of the fastest paces and has one of the best offenses in the country, and it's definitely in the MAC. That game against Miami of Ohio only got to 51 points. And if you think that Western Michigan is going to have anywhere near the offense that Kent State did, you are definitely mistaken on that one. So an A grade for me under 45.5. I would give it an A grade at 45. Once you go below 45, it would be a B grade. I don't know what my stopping point on this would be, like
38.5, 38.
Okay. I'm more conservative than that. I was going to say like 42 or something like that. Maybe like 41.
I'd for sure play under 41. I could say stopping at 41. I could see that.
Yeah, but an A grade, it's at 45. 45 would still be an A grade. Lower than that, it would be a B grade for me.
It reminds me of the New Mexico State game, and my buy point for that under was 38.5, which it got to on Saturday or whatever, and I posted and locked that in, and that game didn't even sniff that. To me, like I said, I probably would still play under 38.5. But none of that's gonna matter because we got an A grade and a fantastic number under 45.5. We're gonna give you a pick on every side. This one, I feel like, I don't know. Miami has a 6-point favorite, but after last week, I don't feel confident taking 6 with Western Michigan, but I don't really love laying 6 with the bad team. I guess they're at home at least, but I mean, do you have a feel at all for the side of where you would lean?
Nope. What grade did we say where it doesn't count? Where we're saying don't invest in it? Because I want this to be the first one where we're like, don't invest in this game.
Yeah, this is a great game for this, right? A perfect one. Yeah. We'll give this. I'm going to official lean would be Miami of Ohio, just because sideline to 7 and 7 the common outcome and 6 as well. So at least we get the push there. But a C grade pick, I don't have a lot of confidence in Miami of Ohio. One I don't really want to invest in, but if I had to make a pick, that's the pick I would make. But officially a 0 unit play for us on Miami of Ohio. But an A grade under. We love the under, hate the side, and that's the way it goes sometimes, right?
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is why I would lean towards Miami, Ohio as well is just because of everything in this game. I feel like I have the most confidence in Miami, Ohio's defense. Like, don't know anything else, but I have faith in that. And so, again, I wouldn't invest in it, but if I had to pick a side, that's why I would pick Miami, Ohio.
5 p.m. Eastern, Southern Miss at Texas State. Southern Miss is a 1-point road favorite. Southern says it should be Southern Miss minus 3.7. It's a pretty solid edge here. It kind of meets the threshold of percent edges where the model has done better this year. So I think we want to lock in Southern Miss -1 here. It's nice in case it does go to overtime or something like that. When by a field goal, a lot of ways we can win this one. I think Southern Miss is the better team. Southern has them ranked 78th. And Texas State, again, out of the hundreds, but still only 99. That's 21 spots below Southern Miss. I think Southern Miss can go on the road and get the job done. Total of 45. What is your take for us?
Okay, so my recommendation on the side here would be to make this a B grade, because the problem with Southern Miss is that they played Arkansas State last week. And I told everybody, I should really just make picks on games with like the 7 teams that I know really well, because I always tell you to play the over in the Arkansas State game. I told you, do not play the over in the Arkansas State Southern Miss game, because Southern Miss's defense is really good. Well, the problem is that Arkansas State's defense made Southern Miss's offense look, not good. And so I definitely have questions about Southern Miss's offense, but their defense is really, really good. And so I would say give it a B grade on the side. I like Southern Miss here as well. But man, this total at 45, an A grade on the under for me. Any game with Southern Miss, we've got a couple teams, most of them in the Big Ten West, and maybe Troy, and then Southern Miss. It's just, I don't know if you could set these, and apparently Miami, Ohio, I'm not sure that you can set these totals low enough for some of these teams. So I am going to give an A grade at under 45. I think that's the lowest I would go with an A grade.
All right, I'm down with that. So it's a B grade pick for us on Southern Miss -1 and an A grade on the under 45. 6 p.m. Eastern, San Jose State at New Mexico State. San Jose State is a 21-point favorite. After that performance they had this last weekend against Fresno State, New Mexico State, if you look at the rankings, New Mexico State is as high as they've been in a long time. After the beatdown of New Mexico, look, I'm going to grab 21 points here with New Mexico State. Like, they are a bad team, but with what I saw from San Jose State last week, I feel like New Mexico State has shown enough. They've finally shown those signs of life that, like, we kind of thought we saw early, and then it kind of like waned a little bit. And now it's like New Mexico State has put together a body of work that it's not impressive for sure, but it's like not like I feel decent by saying like New Mexico State's like not like super, super terrible anymore. They're just mostly terrible, right? So I think this is too many points. I want to take the 21 with New Mexico State. And I know that total's 44. You got to lean under for sure. The question is, do we really want to invest in the under or not at 44? It's obviously we'd rather have 45, but you saw New Mexico State, New Mexico last week. You saw San Jose State, Fresno State last week. Neither one of those games got anywhere near 44. I mean, to me, it's take the points and take the under. Those are also correlated. And so there's that to consider as well, that winning one is more likely to win the other. So a parlay there isn't the craziest idea. Where's your head at on this one?
Like, do we have like a button we need to press if I just want to like pass? Like, is there like a sign I need to hold up or something? Man, I have no idea. New Mexico State, I know you just tried to sell me on, they are not in the bottom 3 anymore. And that is a vast improvement. Yeah. And that is a vast improvement for them. But they're just still not very good. Definitely of this side or the total, I would feel more confident in the under 44. So I think I would give the total a B grade on the under 44, and on the side, I've got nothing.
I'm giving a B grade for the side, the plus 21 at 21. At 21, I think, because obviously that's a very possible landing spot.
Yep.
If it goes to the teens, that's a different story. But getting 21, I think, offers some value here with New Mexico State. Yep. Again, sideline gives us an 8% edge, so I think it's a pretty good spot to buy in here at plus 21. And again, that's so correlated with the under. I like the under as well. So we'll give double B grades on this one. And a football game you probably should not try to watch.
No.
Question for you is 45? Is that up to an A grade? Is that?
No, it would have to be more like 47, because you could convince me that San Jose State scores, 38 or 45 points themselves in this game. So I think it'd have to be more like 48 points for me to give it an A grade.
So, viewer, in case you're wondering, we're going to go ahead and lock in the under 44 as a B grade here because we don't think it will get to the A grade territory. So there's really just no point in waiting. Let's just do it. 45 would be even better, but these two teams probably aren't going to score a lot of points. Yep. We're waiting on a couple of those other ones in case they get to some key numbers because those A grade play picks are right on the doorstep. So that's why we're kind of holding off on those.
Yep.
7 p.m. Eastern, Mississippi State at Alabama. Alabama, I mean, that game was fantastic. I mean, just as just as a college football fan, Jake is probably still drunk from that game. But, as a fan of neither team and just getting to watch and most of us probably rooting against mighty Alabama, right? It was a lot of fun. Tough to come back for Alabama here and now try to win a game by a ton of points against a pretty good Mississippi State team. I wonder how the crowd in Tuscaloosa is going to be like. I don't know any Alabama fans personally, so maybe some of y'all can drop a comment on this. But look, I'm just going to project my own feelings on this. As an Astros fan going to our 6th straight ALCS, I'm kind of like, yeah, it's like what we do every year, like whatever. Like it's like call me when we get to the World Series, right? And I kind of like Bama's the same way. It's like, is it gonna be like, well, we've lost, we're 21-point favorites, like whatever? Like, is this game like, or is it gonna be an intense atmosphere? You can kind of convince me either way. I don't know how that'll play out. I just think 21 is too many points here for, like I said, a pretty good Mississippi State team. Sideline has them ranked 16th, and says that this should be Bama minus 17. So I think we should be taking the 21 here. Total is 62. What do you have for us?
I love Mississippi State in this game. Let's give this an A grade, just because I feel like we've seen enough from, in my opinion, we've seen enough from Alabama's defense at this point to say that they're not the best. And I feel like a Mike Leach offense is going to be able to put up some points on this team, and more importantly, throwing the ball around a lot, yes, but throwing the ball in a completely different way than what Tennessee does. And so I think that
very different.
I think that it wouldn't surprise me if you're able to see Mississippi State, get 5, 6, 7 yards a pass and really chew up some clock and kind of keep Alabama's offense on the field, which is, I think, the most important thing for them to be able to cover this number. Because if Bryce Young, which he made some amazing plays on Saturday. I mean, he looked like a magician back there at times. I was thoroughly impressed with him in that game. But I think that keeping him on the sideline is going to be important. I think Mississippi State's offense can do that by stringing together some long drives, or they're just completing a bunch of short passes. So I think getting 21 points here is quite the bargain. Again, I think we've got some questions about Alabama's defense. The total, man, it's really hard to watch what Alabama did last week against Tennessee and say that this game is going to go under. But I think that's where I would lean if I had to. But this is one where I would just say probably best not to invest in the total, at least in my opinion. Take those 21 points and make that your play on this game.
Okay. Well, we got A grade play on Mississippi State plus 21. How low is it an A grade play to you? Still 20 and a half? Good.
I think 20 would be the lowest. I would give it an A grade, and then I'd probably give it a B grade down to like 17, and then after 17, I'd say just stay away.
Okay. I'm like my first thought would have been, how do you watch that last week and not think over? But I will let you be the voice of reason, and we will just pass on the total and just kind of say, you know what, like, let's not overreact. Let's just leave it, let it simmer. And we'll just have our A grade play on Mississippi State.
Well, and I think Mississippi State's offense, if they play like I think they should, if they're just trying to complete a bunch of short passes and eating up the clock, that should play in.
There should be fewer possessions.
It should play into going under this number. But again, if this goes over, I would not be shocked at all.
Right. 7 p.m. Eastern, Boise State at Air Force. Air Force, I don't understand. At least I get Boise at this point. You just got to zig and zag, right? Maybe you got to with Air Force too. What happens when two zigzag teams play each other? How do you zig and zag? I think we should lock in 4 with Boise State. I think that's a pretty solid number because I don't have a clue what's going to happen in this game. And maybe Air Force is slightly better. They're at home, but like, are you confident enough that they can win by touchdowns? Basically what you're asking it for, that they can win by touchdown here. It seems like a lot considering neither one of these teams, both these teams could just completely not show up and it wouldn't surprise me. So it seems like let's take the 4 points. The question is just, do we have any confidence in that? Or is this going to be our second 0 unit play of the episode? Total is 47.5. What do you have for us?
Let's get the easy part out of the way first. B grade on the under 47.5 here. I don't see there being very many points in this game at all. And as Air Force showed us, once they scored 42 points this week, or 49 points, or however many it was, they can just tear up the clock and just literally do nothing. Literally almost like not move, but somehow take up 5 minutes while not moving.
It's incredible. Question for you. What is your A grade play on the under?
Probably 47. It wouldn't be.
Sorry, wait, no, I mean up to
your A. Probably 48. Just because 48 is a very, very key number there. So
do we want to do the same thing, kind of just hold off on this one and see?
I say let's go ahead. I just want to go ahead and lock this one in.
Okay.
I like this number. Let's go ahead and lock this one in.
Okay. And if it goes up, then we'll just add the extra unit to it.
Yeah. So you say, is this going to be the second game where we have no investment on the side? And I'm going to say yes, because I would be the opposite of you. I would lay the 4 points with Air Force just because you've tried to tell me, and then Jack tried to tell me last year to just zig when you want to zag. And so you see the 4 points and you want to say, I want to take that with Boise State, low scoring game. Makes complete sense to take the 4. And so that means that no, you should lay the 4 points with Air Force. So I completely agree. We need to just not do anything with the slide in this one.
Well, then I'm going to zig and zag off of your zigzag then, and we will make Air Force -4 then our official recommendation, because it makes no sense, and that's what you do in Boise State games. But at a C grade pick, that's what we would do in contests. But otherwise, this is not a game. Air Force to me, I could be wrong. There could be a number out there for different games, but to me, Air Force is a team I may not want a single unit on a side for the rest of the season. Yeah. I can't figure them out. I was thinking about this and talking because to you and Jake about this, that I'd like to, if I could find some time, make a volatility index based off of how much the team's rankings have moved week to week, which kind of gives you a feel for like how much they're just all over the map. And Air Force would have to be up at the top of those rankings. I mean, they are just every which direction possible. Every time you turn around, it's like, oh, they're like a few points better. Oh, they're a few points worse. And a few points means something pretty impressive happened. And so I just have no faith in them whatsoever. So I'm loving the we'll lean that because Boise games make no sense ever. But my goodness, I don't have confidence in anything with Air Force with regards to who will win. I do have confidence, like you said, in them killing the clock. And as we talked about before with Boise State, just as I mentioned too, it's not just Air Force. It's Boise State's offense is not that good. Their defense is pretty solid. They can play long, slow, sloggy games too, and that's exactly what Air Force wants to do. So it should be a fairly low-scoring contest. Maybe we can get up to 48 and add an extra unit to it just for fun.
I hope so.
7:30 Eastern, your fighting Texas A&M Aggies are 3.5-point road favorites. Question mark? At South Carolina, I don't understand why you are laying the hook. Sideline says you should be favored by 1.2. I'm grabbing the 3.5 of South Carolina. The question is just, is it an A grade or a B grade? I don't really have a lot of faith in either one of these teams. I think A&M's a little bit better, but I mean, give me the home team with the field goal on the hook any day of the week. And the total 45.5, 45 being a key number, I kind of. You could talk me out of it. I'll let you talk me out of it. But I mean, my thought would be let's take the dog and let's take the under here is kind of where my head's at. Where's yours at?
Yeah, definitely agree with the B grade on the 3.5 points with South Carolina. I think that's good value there. The total, oh man, I've got a lot of thoughts on this. So I really liked what A&M did. Relative, it's all relative, right? I really liked what A&M did on offense against Alabama. They came out and did some stuff that they hadn't done all season, changing up some looks. They ran some counter plays where they actually handed it off to A-Chain with no blockers. They did a counter block with the lineman going the opposite way. The defense reading those keys, trying to follow those lead blockers there, and they just hand the ball off the other way. Where basically
the whole point, every once in a while, getting unpredictable, which can cause some holes. Because if you're too predictable, a defense like Alabama is going to eat you alive. And so they did a good job of kind of trying to zig and zag a little bit.
Yes, and so I liked what I saw there. But the things that I'm thinking in this game, we talk about every time we talk about South Carolina with Spencer Rattler and the turnovers. A&M's defense has been incredible the past couple of years. Forcing turnovers is not one of their fortes. And this last game against Alabama was definitely the exception to the rule in that regard. They have just not been good at forcing turnovers the past handful of years. I would be surprised if Rattler had 3 turnovers in this game just because A&M has such a difficult
Which is a weird statement to make in general. I feel like you don't say that.
I don't say that very often. But A&M just has – especially interceptions, just had a terrible time getting interceptions in the past few years.
And that can be – there's a little bit of luck to that for sure, especially when you talk about the double doinks off the helmets and that sort of nonsense. Kind of hate you, Penn State.
Yes, we do.
But, that can be a schematic thing, right? Where you're talking about what type of defenses you're playing. If your defensive backs have their backs to the quarterback more so versus playing zone, right? And you're watching his eyes, what sort of confusing coverages you're running. I mean, that can be a thing where you're putting your players in position to confuse the quarterback and generate interceptions. It's a little bit of luck, but it can be a little bit of planning as well. And a little bit of skill with regards to how well the guys can catch the ball. So when you talk about that with A&M, it's not recovering fumbles is all luck, but interceptions is not all luck. So you say that I'm kind of
well, if I recall correctly, Didn't A&M get 3 fumbles against Alabama? I don't think any of them were interceptions. I think they were all fumbles. And
I don't remember the exact number, but
I don't remember.
I'd buy it.
I know at least 2 of them were fumbles. So yeah, complete luck, which aligns with my story, which is why I like it. The other thing that I would say is this is not confirmed, but there are rumors that there might be a different quarterback starting for A&M this week. Max Johnson's still hurt. They're saying they might go to the true freshman, Connor Wegman. We don't know who's going to start. I think King may still start, but on the chance that Wegman does play, I think it's going to be even tougher on A&M's offense. And so, I understand wanting to get the freshman in there to play and everything, especially with how the offense is done this season. But in this particular spot, I wouldn't like it. So I would give the B grade, under a B grade here as well. But I think my cutoff point for that would be 45, because you. A&M could come off the bye week. If they're starting a different quarterback, you don't know what the offense is going to look like. A&M could have a bunch of turnovers that lead to points for South Carolina. Maybe A&M gets some turnovers here or something, and they get some points off turnovers, which is what they did against Alabama. So I would give the under a B grade, but I wouldn't play the under past 45.
Okay, I'm gonna try to talk you into something here, right?
Okay.
I think I get what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying with regards to that. And I think that's why I keep South Carolina plus 3.5 as a B grade, because there is a little bit more uncertainty with regards to that A&M situation there. However, A&M and Alabama combined for 44 points, which would have gone under this number. And we just saw what Bama did with Tennessee.
Yeah.
Backup quarterback or whatever. But I mean, I feel like this is a pretty strong underplay. Even if all the things you're saying are true, it feels like one of those games where all of those have to go right for us to go over the 45.5. A couple of those things can happen. And if A&M does have some of these gimmicks or whatever, I could see them winning a game that's 32-10, right?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a situation where a lot of things have to go right to get over this number being so on the north side of a key number 45. Can I get you to the A grade on that? Or are you still it's your team? So I mean, if you want to put your foot down here and say no, I'll respect that.
No, let's fine. We can give it an A grade. I'm fine with that. If this ends up going over, I think it's because turnovers. One team has get a lot of turnovers. People have gotten short fields, and A&M gets 17 points off turnovers like they did against Alabama. That's when I think you would see this game go over. But sure, let's give the under 45.5 an A grade.
All right, and and again, sometimes it happens. That's gambling, and we just kind of tip our hats and just say, we're not going to win them all. But hopefully, we won't have something wonky like that. I did look it up, and A&M had 1 interception against Alabama.
Okay.
8 p.m. Eastern, Colorado at Oregon State. Kudos to Colorado. You got your win. You rushed the field. I think you get stomped now. Oregon State's a pretty solid football team. We talking about a hangover effect. We're talking about Eastern Michigan's hangover effect for being Arizona State, whatever. We go on and on the list of these small schools, hangover effect. In Colorado, they're like a small school at this point. I mean, being ranked so bad by every statistical model, not just mine. They're basically that. You rush the field like that. You got your win. Now you got to go on the road. If Colorado was going to pull it off, it was going to be at home in altitude where that could potentially affect things. On the road, you don't have that. So I'm going to lay the 24 with Oregon State. My thought is B grade because it's just too many points to give it an A grade. But this feels like a thumping, 38-3 is kind of my thought on this one. Total is 50.5. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so I've got nothing on the side on this game. I feel like Colorado is throwing their one punch, but I haven't exactly been impressed with Oregon State this season. Although I was a little surprised at how the game with Washington State last week played out. I thought that one would be closer than it ended up being. I like the total here, the under 50.5. I would definitely give that a B grade because I just don't think there's going to be very many points in this game. I think you said it right. 38-3 sounds about right.
I'm debating. I'm thinking I'm going to try to press you into the A grade on the under here. I love the under as well. I looked into that under with Oregon State, Washington State, and that didn't even sniff anything. No. And I feel like Oregon State, they play lower scoring games. You saw it against USC, right? This is just kind of what they do. I could respect the under by point for an A grade at 52 if that's what you say, but I kind of just think anything in the 50s is A grade under for me. I just cannot see Colorado scoring much in this game. How do you react to that?
Man, I look at Colorado's schedule, and it was like 51 against Air Force, 56 against Minnesota, 63 against Arizona. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess let's give it an A grade under the premise of I don't think it's going to go up. Like, I don't think this is going to go up to 51 or 52.
Right.
And so I'm good with an A grade here because, yeah, maybe Colorado doesn't score at all.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking here. So B grade, laying 24 with Oregon State, under a 50 and a half. A grade. You look at Oregon State, they scored a bunch of points on Montana State. But, ever since that game, their outputs offensively are 14, 16, 28, 24. They're going to have to score most of these points to get over 50 and a half. Yeah. I just don't see Colorado scoring against this Oregon State defense that many points. So, and obviously when you see something like that too, obviously no team totals right now, but a Colorado team total under would be something to look at as well. Caution on that. If you're playing side and total, those are obviously correlated to team totals. So you don't have to invest in all of them. Those are just ways you can spread your money around a little bit differently. But liking the Oregon State spread, loving the under on the total, given the way they play football games. 9:45 Eastern, kickoff, Utah State at Wyoming. Wyoming is a 3.5 point home favorite. Sideline says it should be Wyoming -3. Total is 41.5 on this one. Can there be enough points to get into the 40s with these two teams?
I don't know. Like, I feel like when I think about Wyoming season, like that game against Tulsa, it's just like, where did that come from?
There were a lot of turnovers in that game.
Yeah, that was just like such a weird game. And I guess maybe a lot of that is not repeatable, but we've certainly seen from Utah State this season that if they could, if a team's going to give up a bunch of turnovers and give a bunch of points and just play overall terribly in general, it could be Utah State this season. So, man, 41.5 is really low. I don't know. Like, you would have to convince me on the over the under there. And man, this side, there's no way. I would be completely lying to our audience if I felt like I had a feel for the side on this game one way or the other.
I then will say let's lock in the +3.5 with Utah State, but just a C grade pick. I think it's one where if the number stays at 3.5, I want the hook with two teams that I think are mostly garbage. Wyoming's ranked 107th, Utah State 110. I mean, it's not going to be exciting football, but give me the hook here. It's like a C+ pick for me. It's just, I just don't want to be invested in this game is my thought. So, Cousin Jared, if you had any lean the same direction, you could probably get me from a C+ to a B, but I just personally am not that. I think it's the right side, but that doesn't mean that I have to invest in it. Right. So, lean Utah State +3.5. I like the under 41.5. This would be the lowest I would go, though. Like you said, it is a low number. My pitch to you on the under is Wyoming BYU was 38-24, and that was BYU, who we've seen just defense getting worse as the season goes along.
Apparently, no defense at all. I did not realize that, but no defense.
Yeah, as the season's gone along, just getting worse and worse and worse. It's like they had all their defense in the Baylor game, and then that was it, right?
Yeah.
Wyoming scored 16 on San Jose State. They scored 27 on New Mexico. They scored 17 against Air Force. The question is the turnovers of Utah State, but if this was that same game they played last time out against New Mexico, that 27-14, that would be 41. 41's a key number here, being 41.5. I feel like I'm liking the under here. Can I get you on the under, or is it just don't want to mess with it?
Sure, let's give the under a B grade.
All right. Like I said, I think at this number, at 41.5, I want the under. 41, I guess, because maybe you have the push, but 40.5 is no go for me on this.
I don't know if you're sensing 41. I don't know if you're sensing a pattern here, but it's not going to take much to convince me to play unders.
The overs are a lot harder to get you to agree to. All right.
Yeah. Well, unless it's a Big 12 game, but yes.
There you go. 10:30 Eastern, San Diego State at Nevada. Woof. Nailed Hawaii.
Told
y'all take the points, maybe sprinkle a little bit of money line there. I liked what I'd seen from Hawaii. Moving on up, Nevada just struggling. But look, San Diego State, are they moving in the right direction? Total's 36.5. I would not play over. For sure. Would not play over. San Diego State, I think San Diego State's last 2 games have combined for like 3 points in the first half. So maybe a first half under 2. But so Nevada could not get anything going against Hawaii, really. And when they did get the ball moving, they mostly settled for field goals. 36.5 is just so low. But I feel like under would be the way to go. It's just, do you have the stomach for it? The thing about this price though here for this line of 9, Sideline says this should be San Diego State minus 4.7. I was all over Hawaii last week, but this feels like a bit of an overreaction. That's why I built the model to say, hey, are we overreacting? Nevada is really bad, but my question is San Diego State good enough to win on the road by double digits? The caveat that I have for you viewer, you have to answer yourself because Jared, you can answer it live. Is a loss like that for Nevada going to Hawaii, who was supposedly one of the worst teams in college football? I don't think they are. I think they're at least out of that bottom 3. Is that a demoralizing? You're done with it. We're getting to the point where you might have some kind of like we're done, and teams just checking out, frustrating losses. Is that this sort of thing? Or if Nevada can bounce back, I think they got a chance to hang in there because San Diego State doesn't score enough points to win by double digits, right? They should be able to hang in there in this game.
So the loss to Hawaii is not good. But I think to kind of the gist of your question, that's on top of the home loss to Colorado State. It's on top of the game against Air Force where they just were never in that game. It was 48-20. It was worse than what the score ended up being. It's on top of the shutout at Iowa, which, shutout at Iowa, whatever. On top of the loss to Incarnate Word. Like, I feel like the wheels may be coming off with Nevada. Yeah, with Nevada here. And so, like, if you told me that San Diego State won this game 20-7, I would be like, yeah, that seems.
So we're playing the under.
No, this is one where it's just, where's my pass button? This is just like pass all around pass on this game.
All right, let's go lean Hawaii. I'll lock that in. Lean Nevada. I wish I could take Hawaii in this game. Lean Nevada, the late game, right? Home team. Lean Nevada +9. Wanted to talk about this early in the week, though, because when you see the sideline projections, you will see there's a large edge in this one. But I'm kind of like you, Cousin Jared. I'm very nervous about taking it. Yep. It's kind of like we talked about with the previous play. It's kind of a C+ pick. Like, you could maybe talk me into investing in Nevada, and the principle of it's just too much. Maybe if it gets to 10. Maybe if he gets a 10, you say that because it's so hard for San Diego State to score that many points.
Right.
I feel like at 9, if it's 6 in this number, that's what I would do in a pick-'em contest for sure. I'm just a little bit nervous about it. It's hard to invest in, but I do think that's the side I would be on if I were to be on the side. It's take the points or pass, but it's usually because we're hitting the pass button on this one, basically. And the total, like I said, I would be on the under. We can't get a consensus here, so we're going to pass on the under as well. But I feel like the Nevada Iowa game, that sort of game is
I don't feel like you can play. You can't play the over. Yeah, right. So like if you want to be invested in the total here, it's under.
Yeah, I agree. I would lean under, but it's just such a low number. It's probably not worth our investment. We got a lot of other good under plays, so we can let that one slide by. All right, because Jared, any parting words for us?
Last week was just a good weekend of football. It was a lot of fun, and I know there's probably not as many games that get us really excited this week, but if it could be like half as good as last week, it's still going to be an amazing week. Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of fun. There'll be some good games. Maybe we can all feel spent
at 9 p.m. rather than 6 p.m. because I don't know about you, but by like 6 p.m. I was just like, the hair. I have no hair, but it would have been like standing up and just like crazy, just like, oh my gosh, it was so crazy.
Definitely.
If we could get that again, maybe just a few hours later, I guess it would be acceptable this weekend, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had problems calming down. I was like laying in bed at like 1 a.m. and I was like, I guess I'm still off a high of all these crazy games. It was such a great weekend.
It was. All right. Well, that's all we have for you for episode 1 of Week 8 college football. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can ensure all the sports betting content that we provide on this channel is dropped right into your feed. Be back with you again. Always MLB playoff action and college football. We got 2 more episodes this week, so lots more content coming your way. As always, best of luck, and remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.